into that fashion and femininity, can you talk about the intersection of feminism and being Muslim?
Yeah, so my friend Rima and I talked about this as well in the Creative Mornings talk, and Rima talked about how there in Islam, like years ago, there were, you look at the history in our when we study our religion, there are so many female role models and so many female leaders in our religion, and I think that's not something that often we talk about, and I think that's not something often people associate with like Islam and feminism, and even having gone through internal battles and external battles with my own personal identity, always wondering and questioning, like, am I an American or am I a Muslim or am I an Arab? Like, who am I? But I always ask myself, who am I with all these different identities? And I realized, like, I can be all of those different identities. Like, I can be a proud Muslim, American, Arab woman. Like, I don't have to pick and choose. Although I feel like sometimes in around society, people are constantly making you pick and choose and saying, like, you can't be an American and be Muslim. Although, like, that is my identity and I identify with both, right? And so, more specifically, it's the same for me when it comes to feminism, advocating for all women, is that is a part of my identity. And I am, and, I feel like my faith and my culture and my personal story are all rooted in a sense of identity and a sense of purpose, in a sense of, not wanting to ever exclude people from conversations or exclude people from spaces or whatever that may be. And so I strongly believe that Islam and feminism are, it's not one or the other. They're both connected. And more specifically, even, as someone who chooses to cover her hair and cover her body, is that I have the right to do that. And I always tell people that you can't call yourself a feminism, but then hate women who choose to cover their bodies. Just like I'm not going to hate women who choose to not cover their bodies. Like, women have the right to wear whatever they would like and be whoever they would like and do whatever they would like. And I'm not going to, judge someone based off of that. And so that's a commitment that I've made through my religion and as who I am as a person as well, is that, all women means all women. And as someone who knows that sometimes even like Muslim women are excluded, unfortunately, when we do talk about feminism, because we'll advocate for Muslim women who don't wear hijab and cover their bodies, but we won't advocate for Muslim women who do cover and wear hijab because we think they're oppressed. But then again, it's like, no, you're that label again, going back to that stereotype and label, like, it's, Muslim women choose to cover their bodies, and that's something that should be embraced and welcomed in spaces and not judged for.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that and sharing your perspective, which I think will hopefully help, me and the audience gain some new insights and remember that it's not so much about what you're doing or what you're wearing, it's having the choice and then in turn not bashing people for doing X, Y, and Z. It's having the choice and being able to exercise that more so than it is setting the rules of what your choices are and how they look. So I appreciate you explaining that and sharing that with me.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, well, we are nearing the end of the episode here. So is there anything that I did not ask or that you wanted to, put into the universe, as this is your episode on the Facing Fear podcast?
Well, again, thank you so much for having me. I really loved chatting with you. This was my highlight of my favorite part of the day. So thank you. I just think ending on I think when, we talked about, obviously, your podcast, Facing Fear, and we talked a lot about, like, everyone has a fear, right? Like, and I'm sure you've learned that even through the podcast, and that's why you've wanted to start this and to connect people, because, and wait, I'm going to repeat myself. Gather my thoughts, Sarah. I think it's so important to, to understand is that as we are all navigating different fears in our life, different fears, as we are I think it's important to recognize that as we are navigating fear in our lives, whether that be now, later, or before, whatever that may be, I think we should all understand, and it's important to know that like we are not alone. And, vulnerability and storytelling is more so telling my personal stories, not something I actually always, it's never actually something I've done until 2021. And a lot of time, and a lot of like the struggles that I've been through are, I kept quiet to myself, or my parents would see me as crying or whatever that may be. So obviously it didn't always go that way. But I think when we are talking about battling our fears, we don't have to go through this alone. And it's important to understand that, I hope everyone has at least one person that they support and trust where they could be vulnerable to and just share their feelings and thoughts to, because that's so important to understand. And as someone who likes to bottle her emotions in, it's something that I'm always like, I can do this, or I'm going to face this by myself, but we really don't have to face it alone. There are always people to be out there to support us. Or even more specifically, even at the event that you and I met at, if you remember, we had a presenter in the morning, and then after that there was breakout rooms. And I still remember that morning because it was so powerful. Everyone was introducing themselves and we were just talking. And one person talked about kind of her health and how her health has affected her, more specifically women's health. And since this was a group of all women, like everyone could relate. Everyone had a story. So many of us were like, we have actually the same, health problems that you also have as well. And it was just such a powerful moment. I remember we all cried together, and it was just, we connected on like, it's so important to connect with the things that bring us joy and happiness and positive vibes, of course. But I think we can't take for granted how we can also connect with our struggles too, because we're able to understand that we are definitely not alone in this journey or in this world.
Absolutely. Totally agree. I love that. And thank you for reminding me of that incredible moment that we got to have in that breakout room. And again, that I could guarantee you that would not have happened at an in-person event. There's way too much noise, way too much people. And so there's always a brighter side to things, and we can absolutely connect over the joys and things that make us awesome, but also there's power in connecting over our vulnerabilities, or maybe some of our, what we consider weaknesses. So great note to end on. And before we go, I wanted to give you the opportunity to let the audience know where they can find you on social media, or if there's anything you'd like to plug.
Yeah, of course. So you're welcome to find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Just my first and last name, Sara Hindi, Sara, last name Hindi. Twitter and Instagram. My nickname is Shindog. So you could, but I think if you search me with my first and last name, you should be able to find me. But my official name is Shindog. It's my nickname that my high school teacher gave to me, and I just have kept it all along. And it's just, people call me Shindog.
Love
and
it.
What I love. So that's my name on there. And you're also welcome to follow the amazing nonprofits and organizations that I support and admire. So Exodus Refugee Immigration, ACLU of Indiana, and Women for Change. They're all on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well.
All right, wonderful. And I'll make sure to put links to all of that in the show notes so you guys can pop open the episode and be able to see what Sara is referencing, and give her a follow for amazing fashion and also information and guidance on how we can come together and really support others within our city, or even if you're obviously outside of Indianapolis, which many of my listeners are. There's some great resources that we will share in the show notes. So yay, awesome. Thank you again for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.